We know that we want another one to use a resource that's not the core resource. And then based off of that, okay, well, what makes sense? What if we don't have life support, then that would need to be an automated faction. And then if the idea of making them into a penal colony stemmed from, there's a writer that we hired, her name is Michelle, and she's also a game designer. And we were asking her, we're like, here are the, Michelle Menard, these are the 4 different factions that we have. This is how they play. What are some narratives that we could tie in that would be interesting for these sort of like gameplay balancing issues? And when she had written down like the penal colony as, you know, referencing the Australian settlement, I was like, that is awesome. Like, that's exactly what we need. Like, it's thematically interesting. It ties in with colonization. It would explain why people would be going to space to make money to begin with. And then when we started thinking about, well, why would people be sending prisoners from Earth to Mars? We imagined a collapse of the economic system on Earth. Like, you know, we had just gone through like the 2007, 2008 period where there was this moment of like where everyone thought, what is going to happen to the dollar? What's going to happen with Earth's currency? And we imagined like there was a rogue algorithm that was set up for buying and selling goods on Earth, and that rogue algorithm or a flaw in that algorithm could collapse the world market through like a series of arbitrage trades where the algorithm believed it was making money by losing less money than people were. So if so the idea is that the Earth's economy sort of collapsed, and there are all these rules in place that prevent machines from doing trading on the stock market, which is why you're the person that's actually buying and selling the goods manually. You know, because if you set up algorithms, it could buy and sell more optimally than you could as a player.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so there are laws on Earth, and then the other idea is like the reason why there's a free market competition on Mars for the land is because they're very worried about big businesses taking over. So they want to create a competition for everyone to get in, so that it's a sort of survival of the fittest economically.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we continue the robots narrative. In our mind, the idea is that there are a lot of developed countries that are having less and less children. And so the idea of sending their people's children to another planet where they could lose their life would be dangerous and not acceptable. So they'd create like sort of like electronic surrogates that would function as their sort of like offspring. And having the robots be basically representations of people's cultures was something that we were interested in. So.
Cool.
We've done a lot of like, you know, we've done some writing and some talking about it, but like I say, until it actually shows up in the game in a way that's playable, a lot of those are nice ideas, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen to make it for real.
For sure, because that's kind of my initial thought is, no, these are really interesting concepts to kind of tell the backstory of the game, but I haven't seen any of it yet. You know? And so that would be a...
So I think Luke Strange was trying to guess what we were doing. The other factions, I'll say the Expansive faction, I'm calling them the startups right now, and those are basically, I would say, like sort of rich kids or kids with connections that are trying to emulate the late 90s of America, of the startup culture, where they basically take a huge amount of debt on, and they're just trying to pay their debt off on the planet. And they have idealized the free market, and they've idealized sort of like American exceptionalism of the last century. And then the 4th faction, the scientists are self-funded. Basically, like the scientists have gotten out of looking for governments for their funding, and the reason they've gotten into business is because they want to be able to fund their own research. Let me see what I think those are the factions. Robots,
Expansive, Science, Robotic, and Scavenger.
Yeah, and we're definitely like the Space Western, the Gold Rush. Like those were all things that we were really excited by. Like looking at things like thinking about like what would like the Firefly world that Joss Whedon came up with. Like what would the initial expansion be like? Yeah, and one of the initial names of the game. Like we argued in terms of theme, probably the biggest arguments we've had with Sarn on theme were about what we named the game. And Sarn's initial game name was Offworld the Offworld. He wanted to call it the Martian Trading Company, in reference to the East India Trading Company. Mm-hmm. And before the movie The Martian, and before a lot of us have read the book The Martian, I felt like a lot of us felt like the word Martian was sort of a tainted world. And if we wanted to take this game theme, this idea, and move it to another planet, because like one of the reasons that we're only doing it on Mars is it limits the amount of variables that we have to handle. Like we don't have to create 5 interesting planets. We can really narrow it down and make one planet have a lot of variation and interest to it in terms of the gameplay.
Right.
But if we did want to expand the game, or have if we wanted to have something called this game Part 2, and it was to take place only on Mars, I feel like that's super restrictive. So by calling it Offworld, I felt like we could expand it into moons, asteroid belts, and/or another solar system if we wanted to have a meaningful sequel.
Right.
And so like we debated a lot with that, and then the idea of like a lot of us wanted to drop Trading Company completely from the title because we felt like it was a little bit of a mouthful. But that's where we hashed it out with a bunch of internal debates, a bunch of conversations, and we sort of took what we liked, which was the name Offworld, and matched it with what Sarum was really into, the Trading Company, and matched it together. And hopefully it's not too much. And then our Jim, our graphic designer, did the logo, and we're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Actually, that's fine. That's something we can live with.
Right. Plus, your community will semi-resolve the situation themselves by calling it whatever in the world they want to, no matter what.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, like they're either going to call it by the initials, or they're just going to call it Offworld. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you going to play tonight? And no one's going to say the full name.
Yeah.
And no one's going to say, tonight I cannot wait to engage in the Offworld Trading Company. I believe I signed up for the early access release from the Steam.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting on toward the 2-hour mark, where we usually try and it's usually about the length these streams run for. I'm in day 5 of 7 of my current match, so we can start toward looking to wrap it up here. I'm just kind of curious. I've mostly been letting you go, but is there anything else you'd particularly like to comment on before we start to wrap things up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think you've listened to enough English people. Oh. Is this about the aluminium, I believe? I don't know.
Game Slayer over there. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. In terms of wrapping it up, I feel like this has been an interesting journey doing the early access and doing. This is sort of my first experience with Sarum doing any sort of like broadcasting of the game and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I've honestly been super thankful that anyone's bought the game and that people are playing and are pretty competitive with each other. I don't know, like I just think I just love games quite a bit. I think being able to work on games is a miracle. I think having people play things that you're working on is amazing. And even if it's not been a perfect rollout, we've definitely learned some hard lessons. And it's like I definitely want the game to be better each build that we make, each month, each week. I'm super, I don't know, just super thankful that we have anyone that's watching a stream, playing this game, liking it, giving us feedback. It's just amazing. So. I don't know. It might be dumb to think of it like that, but I just feel super grateful that we have a community at all for anything that we've made. It's exciting.
It's understandable. Well, it doesn't hurt that you guys are willing to be involved in the community. It's just, it's helpful to have a design team willing to actually get involved and do even just this small thing right now. Like Soren asked me to help out with doing some of the streams in the morning, and I was like, well, maybe, but I'd like to have some official people there with me, and well, he went ahead and in order to keep the stream going, made it happen, and you're here right now, so that definitely doesn't hurt, all things told. That basic idea.
Yeah, and I definitely feel, I think this is, it's one of these things I avoid, like, honestly, being able to chat with you is fantastic. If I was doing this alone, I think I'd lose my mind. I can't not talk and play this game at the same time. Even with people that come into the office and watch me play, when I get to that, I get to a nonverbal responsive mode in Offworld, usually at that last 5 minutes of the game, where I am useless verbally.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do that. It's a complicated game. It takes a lot of work. But yeah, no, it's been fun, and honestly, most of the time I've been able to just sit here and let you talk, which kind of helps me out, because even with all my practice at playing this game and talking at the same time, it's not an easy task.
No. And it's also, and the funny thing is, I guess you're like learning the scenario as well. Like you're learning the campaign, you're like having to keep track of like what's the condition in this map and what price is going up. Well, one of the things I really love about the campaign, actually, which is the fact that you upgrade the performance of your buildings over time. I like that's the thing that got me to compulsively play the campaign for a bit.
Right.
Is I'm like I need to get my farm one level higher. Oh my gosh, they won't be able to stop me when my farms get to level 4.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an interesting part of the campaign that definitely mixes things up from the standard game. Although I guess in the standard game, the way people play it these days, where it's just engineering labs everywhere, people seem to really like that idea of just, I want to make my buildings more powerful and I want to make my buildings do more. But it is nice to have throughout the campaign that arc going on the whole time.
So one of the debates that we've had internally, I don't think it's not something that's like a huge one, is that there's a programmer here that really wants to be able to upgrade buildings individually. So instead of having it be like maybe you unlock that ability with a building, but instead of unlocking them globally, you pick specific buildings to upgrade. He definitely is on the side of the Sims, like the simulation side versus the RTS side. So he hasn't gotten a lot of leeway with that, but every once in a while he'll still bring it up. He'll say, you know what would be really fun is upgrading buildings individually.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know, there are a lot of options for things you can do in the game. It can be interesting trying to balance them and figure out what's actually going to be strong and easily readable for the players, and what are just nice ideas that need to be left to the wayside.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting concept, this idea of upgrading buildings individually.
Yeah.
I guess it would go against, in some ways, this idea that you also, consistently in this game, you want to be scrapping things.
Yeah.
Almost constantly, so... But it's an interesting thought, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. That's the... I don't think I have anything else to cover before. If you want to wrap up, I'm fine if... I'm fine watching you play or talking more, but, just interesting to see, I don't know, when you first started the single player campaign, I wasn't able to watch you. Like, I had forgotten that I had a stream up.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that. I'm like, I'm just talking to Zoltar.
Yeah.
This is fun.
That's fine, though. Not a big deal. But yeah, it's kind of... Well, I think at this point... I've hit the elimination round 6, but I think it's been a couple of hours, so we will go ahead and start to wrap it up here. Okay. I imagine we're going to be doing a few more of these.
Yeah.
Before Soren gets back into the country, is my understanding. And so, I imagine we're going to have other people on, but obviously if Soren wants you to come back or you'd like to come back, I thought this went rather well. And so feel free to even ask to come back if you want to in the future. Maybe next time we'll get a few more people showing up. I don't think we hit the front page of Twitch like we sometimes do during the Thursday mornings, but it's been fun. It's been enjoyable. I've been glad to get some of your insights onto what's going on in the game, especially, to my mind, this whole idea of there is a narrative going on in the background in your minds, and ideas for what's happening, but it just hasn't quite made it into the game yet, and I'd love to get more information on what's coming from that front and all kinds of things like that. So I'd be glad to do more of these with you and the rest of the Mohawk team.
Certainly, yeah. We'll try to, maybe we'll brainstorm here and see if we have other folks. I mean, I'm more than happy to get on the line, but I think having other folks talk as well would be pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Like, we've gotten your ideas where you're talking about, like, more about the art side, and you seem to be heavily involved in the narrative concepts for the game, and it might be good to have people who are more just covering other aspects of the game development. But it's still, nonetheless, it's been enjoyable.
Cool. Well, thanks. Hopefully it was enjoyable for people that watch it.
Yeah.
No.
Hopefully, right? I've enjoyed it. I'm hoping that I'm a decent representation of a fair amount of the community that's here, but hopefully it's been good. Go ahead and let us know, guys, what you thought about it, and then maybe we can decide if we're going to do more of it in the future. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the stream for today. Everybody can be sure to go ahead and join us next week, where we will be back. I don't know who I'm going to be joined by, but I will be covering these for quite some time, for at least the next couple of months, these Thursday morning streams. Instead of Soren. So go ahead and be ready for that, and I hope that I'll see you guys next time.